Hi, it's to Michelle Birdsong, Eve, mother of all living, daughter of the sun. The name of this video is part 3, Meek Eve's claims inheritance from the billionaires. We're looking at a picture of Jesus Christ being Govinda Singh Dhillon and the Buddha and the son of the sun, and a picture of the son of the sun, Michael Bublé, Adam. Okay, American Billionaire by Fast Company. This is an article I read online, and I have excerpts and comments about it. It's just world-changing ideas. American billionaires have gotten $280 billion richer since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Their net worth is rising at a time when millions and millions of people are finding themselves out of work. By Kristen Toussaint. Excerpts mainstreaming clues to you. In the same month that 22 million Americans lost their jobs, the American billionaires class's total wealth increased about 10%, or $282 billion more than it was at the beginning of March. They now have a combined net worth of $3.229 trillion. The initial stock market crash may have dented some net worth at first, for instance that of Jeff Bezos, which dropped down to a mere $105 billion on March 12th. But his riches have rebounded. As of April 15th, his net worth has increased by $25 billion. Eric Yuan, founder and CEO of Zoom, was one of the few to see an increase in net worth even as the markets crashed, and he's now up $2.58 billion. These pandemic profiteers, as a new report from the Institute for Policy Studies, a progressive think tank, calls them, is just one piece of the wealth inequality puzzle in America. In the background is the fact that since 1980, the taxes paid by billionaires measured as a percentage of their wealth dropped 79%. We're reading about benevolent billionaires sharing 0.001% of their wealth with their fellow humans in this crisis, but in fact, they've been rigging the tax rules to reduce their taxes for decades. Money that could have been spent building a better public health infrastructure, says Chuck Collins, director of the Program on Inequality and the Common Good at Institute for Policy Studies, and co-author of the new report titled Billionaire Bonanza 2020, Wealth Windfalls, Tumbling Taxes, and Pandemic Profiteers. Forbes has to pick when. Now, Govinda Singh Dhillon gave all of his centers, his satsang centers, to the government for use in this crisis. So that's pretty incredible. So that's a really generous thing to do. Forbes has to pick when to take a snapshot of net worth for that list, and they picked March 18th. The list then came out April 7th. We started to immediately look at it and realize even 3 weeks later the story was changing quickly, Collins says. Their story was, hey, the pandemic is really affecting even the billionaires. Their wealth is down from last year globally and in terms of the U.S. What we found was wait 3 weeks, and they've now surpassed last year's collective wealth, and now they're surging to new heights. This stark example of inequality in the time of a pandemic also serves to reiterate some points the Institute has long been making about how deep these inequalities go and how far-reaching they really are. Inequality is America's pre-existing condition, Collins says. We went into this pandemic very polarized already, and unfortunately we don't want to come out of it more polarized. Another key finding of the report is that after the 2008 financial crisis, it took less than 30 months for billionaires' wealth to return to its pre-meltdown levels. That wealth then quickly exceeded pre-2008 levels, but as of 2019, the middle class in America has not even yet recovered to the level of its 2007 net worth. People went into the pandemic with the economic hangover from the Great Recession, he says. To solve the problem, the authors call for a pandemic profiteering oversight committee, a corporate transparency act to discourage wealth hiding, and an emergency 10% millionaire income surtax, among other actions. Collins is particularly interested in the idea of a charity stimulus, which would help funnel the estimated $1.2 trillion note from Eve. Charity, is that like the Clinton Foundation? Read Clinton Cash. Read that book. Is that charity stimulus? Is that like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sterilizing Africans against their will? Most of the charities don't give the recipients much of the donations they collect. Most of the money is used for administrative costs, salaries. Is it true that what I saw on Twitter, that the Trump family was busted for cheating a children's charity? Okay, back to the article. Collins is particularly interested in the idea of a charity stimulus which would help funnel the estimated $1.2 million sitting unused in private foundations and another $120 million in donor-advised funds to those actually in need. Eve noted, they stopped the economy, so now many more people are in need who weren't in need when they had jobs and businesses. Was that done to stop Trump from being reelected in November, since they couldn't get him ousted with that fake Russian collusion? That was a projection. Hillary, Barack Hussein, Eric Holder Mueller, they colluded with Russia and sold Russia some of our uranium supply. Trump was acquitted in the impeachment hoax. The economy was doing so well, and the Rockefeller Report of 2010 and Event 201 talked about exactly what happened. That's why some people refer to coronavirus crisis as the plandemic. Back to article. Private foundations are required to pay out just 5% each year, and that percentage can include overhead expenses. donor-advised funds have such have no such requirement, and thus no incentive to move money to charities on the ground. Wealthy donors have already taken the tax breaks, and now the money is just sitting there. If they're saving the money for a rainy day, they should look out the window. It's raining very hard, he says. Eve asks, what's he going to say when he becomes aware of the son's cost, $30 septillion, that he wants paid to his heir, his daughter, Angel Michelle, being T. Michelle Birdsong, Queen of the Universe. The cost of the universe, which has come due, is $60 septillion. And there's all this talk of millions and billions of dollars just sitting in the billionaires' hands. The sons, daughter, and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are destitute. They've all led lives of saints in the past. One is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reincarnated. One is President Harry S. Truman reincarnated. They have no memories of their past lives. They start from scratch with each new birth. That is true of all people. That's most Americans. That is why most Americans don't believe reincarnation really happens. The son's daughter, Eve, reads energy. She can know the past lives of some people just by seeing or reading about them. Often she double checks her beliefs with her husband and brother, Jesus Christ the Buddha, being Govinda Singh Dhillon, who you're looking at a picture of right now. The article says, it's time to fulfill the second part of the promise. They got the tax break. Now let's move the money not to a donor-advised fund, not to foundations, overhead to pay your kids. Move the money to the active community charities that are solving problems right now, who are fearful they're going to have to close their doors. Eve notes, the doors to the ocean of light have been closed by Jesus Christ because some of his disciples insulted his wife, snubbed her, were hostile to her. Mary Magdalene, who had been homeless for years and was missing teeth, and her clothes were shabby, and just like everybody else had amnesia, she did not know who she was except in this life. The Son, her Father, God, has made her his heir now, a mother of his child, yet to be born. Jesus Christ, being Govinda Singh Dhillon, her brother in the high heaven, has married her and also made a baby with Mary Magdalene, being T. Michelle Birdsong. The baby's yet unborn. Doesn't one pay the cost of living before giving money away? The cost of the son who, in the some reason everyone is, the cost of the sun, who is the reason everyone is living, is $30 septillion. The sun solves problems. He solves the problem of the absence of light by providing light to the world. He is the light. He is the light of the world. He, the sun, solves the problem of an ice age. He provides heat. He solved the problem of starvation. He provides energy for food, photosynthesis. How long are the wealthy, the billionaires, going to ignore their responsibility to their source of life, the sun? No wonder the son wants his heir Eve paid. She wants to rescue her grandchildren from poverty, the worst condition on earth, the condition she and some of her children are also living in. Her grandchildren were W for World, Eve, H-E-R, Earth. World, Eve, her Earth mother. Okay, so her grandchildren were Mr. Rogers, Uncle Sam, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Hiawatha, and Saint Kabir. Being Charan Singh, now the being Gurinder Singh Dillon, said, no child should have to live without a mother. The Earth's population are being as children, totally irresponsible, taking no responsibility for paying the cost of the sun, $30 septillion, to his heir, and ignoring the cost of the universe, $60 septillion. While his daughter has being Socrates, Shakespeare, Emerson, Ayn Rand, Marian Anderson, Henry Ford, Nikola Tesla, these were all her past life identities. Beethoven, and projected herself as Mark Twain, Albert Einstein, and goddess of sex, Marilyn Monroe, Cupid, and many other notables. There's no way these souls should be destitute. Think how much good they would do in the world if they had the resources they're owed. The son's daughter's children have being Vincent van Gogh, St. Patrick, Michelangelo, Kepler, Wilbur Wright, King Charlemagne, Mozart, and St. John the Baptist. The world owes the people just as they owe the sun and universe an unfathomable amount of money. Yet they've not paid 1 cent on the cost of the sun, nor the cost of the universe. The article says some billionaires have made large donations during the pandemic, but Collins says we can't let that philanthropy distract from the large conversation of inequality. Philanthropy is really not a substitute for a fair tax system, and in